You're listening to the People's Podcast.
I was honest. Was I brutally honest? Yes. But I think that's the problem. Everybody's so scared to be honest with one another.
This is JSC Radio. It's a level of anxiety that follows you when a police officer does the same. It's kind of that reminder that as a black man, you're always in the wrong place at the wrong time, even if it's your place, even if it's your home, even if you're going to a grocery store. See, I got to explain this to some of you who don't quite get this, and I'm going to be very blunt. I told you, this is an episode that is as uncensored as it gets, so the F-bombs will be coming. I tend to stray away from that word on this show, but when you go through what we go through, it gets raw. You're always carrying this sense of you don't belong here, even if it's in your own home, at your own job, in a supermarket or a shopping mall, a car dealership or a movie theater. You could own the business. You could be cutting your grass. You could walk into a CVS or a Walgreens, or a Sam's Club, or a Kroger, or a ShopRite, or a Wegmans, or a Meijer, or a Target, or a Walmart. And you always feel like you don't belong there. That at any point in time, someone's going to demand to know why you're here. And it doesn't have to be someone who works there. Too often we've seen it. We're just average random ham and eggers see a black man walking around in a store. See a black man walking up the street, in some cases walking in a park with his baby, walking up the street with his dog or with his kid, driving into or out of a parking garage. And some ass clown sees fit to call the cops and question, why are you here? That's the anxiety you feel when a cop pulls up behind you and you're black. Yes, I know white people, you get a little anxious when a cop gets behind you too. But your anxiety often comes from, hey, am I going to get a ticket for this? Are my insurance rates going to go up? A few of you might have weed in the car, and you might wonder, oh shit, they might pop me. You want to know what the anxiety of a black man is when a cop pulls up behind him? Am I getting home? That's it. Am I getting home? One of the things my dad says to me all the time, to this day, just get home. I'm almost 40 years old, but I'm still told, just get home. That's all I was thinking the first time a cop pulled up behind me in 1997. Just get home. 3 years later, this is maybe the most, truthfully, when I did the Mike story, the Mike piece, and shout out to Brittany Packnett and everybody else over at Mike.com for letting me do that. The more ridiculous yet frightening story I have of driving while black came 3 years later. And I've talked about this story. I've made references to it in the past, but I haven't really gone into a lot of detail about it. So I was coming back from a party one night. Michigan State University. This is February of 2000. So we're not that far from MSU winning the national championship in basketball. This is a Saturday night. It's my third year at Michigan State. Saturday nights were party night. I think the party was, it was at Acres. No. No, the party was at Brody. Now I remember it. Look, it's been 18 years, man. I've done a lot of shit in 18 years. It was Brody. It was a party at Brody Hall. It was in February, because it was cold. And I remember driving to Burger King, because usually after parties, and again, you have to understand this is 18 years ago, so I was 20. So eating what I was eating at 2 o'clock in the morning didn't really bother me as much. So I felt I wanted to get a Whopper before I figured out what my next move would be. So I got in my car. I remember dropping off a friend of mine who was headed in that direction. And then I went over to the Burger King, which at the time was on East Grand River, just past Hagedorn. So on the backside of MSU's campus to the east. I'm heading out there. At that time, that Burger King was open to, I think, 4 a.m. because, college campus. And I figure I'm going to pull through and I'm going to get my usual, because I was a fast food eating bastard and I had a usual at every place I went. Mickey D's, the usual, was the number 2, the 2 cheeseburgers, the large fry, and for the longest it was a Sprite before eventually sweet tea showed up, and then I just swore that shit off altogether. At Burger King, it was a Whopper with cheese, extra pickle, extra mayo, with onion rings, large Coke. You can't tell me that you couldn't go for that right now. So that's what I was going to go do. I was going to go to that Burger King, and then the plan was to either head to Spartan Village, to one of the after hours, after sets that was normally happening on MSU's campus, or find something else to get into. At any rate, I get to the Burger King, pull around, make my order, super chill, nothing heavy, nothing major, come around, someone else is in front of me because, again, college campus, late night, Burger King. And as I pull up to the window, I just happen to look over to my right, and in the adjacent parking lot was, I think it was a Quality Dairy. Quality Dairy, for those of you who don't know anything about Michigan State University, is a Lansing area. Essentially, it's kind of a mini mart. I wouldn't call it a liquor store, albeit they sold all kinds of liquor at the Quality Dairy. But it wasn't just like a liquor store. You get everything from ice cream to apple cider to donuts. They had great donuts. You could get all sorts of pop. I'm from the Midwest. It's pop, not soda, damn it. You can get all sorts of pop, any sort of snacks, anything like that. So I look over to my right. It's Quality Dairy. Quality Dairies are also open 24 hours. And I noticed in the parking lot was a Michigan State University police officer. And he's just hanging out. He's just sitting there. It's like 2:15, 2:20 a.m. on a Saturday night. He's hanging out, kicking it, chilling. I don't know what cops do that late at night. I couldn't imagine doing what he does. But he's sitting there doing whatever. It's on a Saturday night. I get my grub, set it over in the seat, get the whole setup, because everybody has a fast food setup. Everybody's got one. And I pulled up just before making the turn, stopped for a second. Nobody was behind me, because I'm not that rude jerk who just sits there if someone's behind you. Nobody was behind me. I had the drink set up in one cup holder. I had the onion rings lined up in the other cup holder. I got the burger properly unwrapped because, I'm a savage and I'm going to eat the damn thing in the car. Because why wait? Because I was trying to figure out the next move. And I get everything set up, got one hand on the wheel, ain't nobody coming. I make the right out of the drive-thru, back onto Grand River, heading back toward campus. And then seconds later, the cop pops his lights on, makes his right out of the parking lot, and gets behind me. Now, I'm not speeding. It's my car. By this point, it's now a Mercury Tracer because the Sable died halfway through my sophomore year at Michigan State. And I'm just rolling. I'm not speeding. It's 2 a.m. and anybody, again, if you've been on a college campus on a Saturday night at 2 in the morning, people are leaving from different bars and places. Traffic is not exactly speed worthy. My lights were working. Everything was good. So this cop gets behind me and I'm rolling, and I could tell it seemed like he was just trying to get someplace like I was, because he didn't hit his lights. He wasn't flashing anything like that. So I'm thinking, all right, when a cop gets behind you, you have that anxiety and you just want that dude to get from behind you. especially when you know you didn't do anything wrong. So the quickest way about this is to hit my turn signal, get over to the left, freeze up some room. There was a little bit of space in front of me. Get over. The cop will just drive right on by, and everybody's cool. Except I got over, he got over. All right. I drive about another quarter mile. He's still just lingering behind me. No lights. I get over, and he gets over. By this point now, I've rotated back onto MSU's campus. I'm passing the SBS. I've passed the Peanut Barrel restaurant. At the time, it was Stephen Barry's. I passed that. I remember passing that. On the other side of me, of course, is the MSU Union. I get over, and this cop gets over. So by this point, this son of a bitch is just following me. He hasn't flashed any lights still. Hadn't told me to slow down or get over. Nothing. When I move, he moves. And just like that, I've worked my way close to Michigan Avenue now, and I've now rotated back over to the Brody complex. I was staying in the Brody complex at this point. Cop's still following me. And I don't know what to do, because he still hasn't hit his lights. I try one more time to get to the left, he gets to the left. I get to the right, he gets to the right. I pass through the light, he passes through the light. I make the Michigan left, he makes the Michigan left. I mentioned the anxiety that you get when a cop's behind you. I mentioned that feeling of dread when the cop's behind you. That fear, that anxiety, that angst. And I started hearing my dad's words in my head again. Just get home. Because I don't know what this cop wants. He's followed me this whole way here. I would almost rather the dude just hit the lights and pull me over. But to follow me like that, it made me wonder, what was he calling in? What was he trying to get on me? I make that Michigan left. I then loop around. He follows me through there. I pull into the parking lot in front of Butterfield Hall where I was staying at the time. He follows me there. And finally, pull into this parking spot. By this point, I haven't touched this Whopper. I'm completely fucked up. And I pull into the parking spot. He lingers up a little bit behind me. And as soon as I make the move to get out of the car, through the bullhorn, I still hear him say, "Get back in the car. Where are you going?" And I freeze. Because I don't know what the hell's next. I'm scared out of my mind. By this point, I'm 20. Still 6 foot. About 165 pounds. I think I still had my afro. I literally looked like any black man he wanted me to be. He could have shot me. He could have beat me. He could have accused me of charging at him. He could have accused me of making any moves. I instinctively just put my hands up and step back toward the car, and then he stops me again and says, "Why are you here?" Because apparently, I can't just pull into my place. And I'm freezing. He yells at me again, "Why are you here?" I can still feel the anxiety a little bit. And it's 18 years later. I yell back at the man, "I stay here. I am a student here. Show me your ID." So I pull my ID out. I take a few steps toward the vehicle holding the ID. And I didn't know what the hell ID he wanted, so I just had both my driver's license and my MSU ID in my hand. He looks at both, and then he looks at me, and then he just slowly starts to drive away, making it a point to point the flashlight in my direction. And just slowly until he got to the exit and then turned and quickly drove away. I got home. But boy, oh boy. Needless to say, I didn't eat that Whopper. I didn't eat those onion rings. I killed the whole Coke, though, because I was so frightened and my mouth was dry as shit. It may have barely been 40 degrees that night, but I was sweating fucking bullets. Being a black man in this country is operating under the constant sense that you are never where you're supposed to be. Being a black man in this country means you're always in the wrong place at the wrong fucking time. Being a black man in this country means you're not welcome in 90% of it. And you have to constantly be ready to explain why you're here. It's dehumanizing. And that was 2000. That was before we ended up being taken over by this regime that demonizes and dehumanizes so many of us, that firmly stands behind the type of policing that I just described to you. Because that's the thing. And you see it with the way that these migrant children are being treated. You see it with the way that all immigrants are treated that aren't white. You see it with the way that black people in this country are treated, whether you're American-born or immigrant, whether you're Haitian or Nigerian, whether you're from Ghana, whether you're from Senegal, whether you're from Tunisia or the Sudan or Egypt, whether you're Puerto Rican, and you're not an immigrant if you're Puerto Rican, whether you're Puerto Rican or Dominican or Cuban or Mexican or Venezuelan or Colombian or Brazilian, you're not seen as a citizen. You're not seen as normal. You can't operate under a normal set of circumstances like going to get a goddamn Burger King Whopper at 2 o'clock in the morning on a college fucking campus. When that asshole pulled me over 5 years later, it pissed me off. I've been pulled over multitude of times for quote unquote tail lights and different minor infractions yet never getting ticketed. I get followed around stores. Oh, but maybe you fit the description. Kiss my ass. Let me make this real clear. If you're white in this country, you're guaranteed humanity to a certain extent. Everybody else, especially if you're black or brown, your humanity is optional. And at any point in time, they feel they can strip it from you or just remind you of your place.